Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Justice. I'm joined by Terramaster. And if you saw our videos yesterday, you would have seen that we went over the worst case scenario for what we expect Konami to include in Camula's deck in the Duelist of Shadows mini box coming up for Speed Duels. But
Did
today,
you call it a mini box?
I did for some reason. Yes.
If it's a mini box, I am canceling my pre-order.
Don't know why. Anyway,
Right.
not mini box, regular box. Hooray, we're done with mini box.
Yes.
But today, we are going over the best case scenario, in our opinion, of what an actually powerful zombie type deck could look like. We try to include cards that we think are good and that we'd be excited to see without going too overboard in terms of power level, trying to bring power up to a level that we would be happy to see Speed Duels have. So the card that you see on the left side of your screen is not actually part of we did not go that far with zombies.
Yes.
So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. Terramaster, what is our first card?
This is called Devouring Sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus, like we call it, because it's a joke name. It's funny.
Yeah. Konami got puns. All right.
Yeah.
So when it's destroyed by battle, by an opponent's monster, you take control of that opponent's monster. But don't worry, it's not that broken. Okay. It becomes a zombie, but it also becomes 0 stat. And when your zombie monster is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster, while this card is in your graveyard, you banish this card because zombies have to have graveyard effects. And you take control of that opponent's monster, it becomes a zombie monster with attack defense 0. So essentially, it's giving you tribute fodder, which we thought goes pretty well with the whole vampire theme, which vampires are, happy to have any kind of tribute fodder. And it also gets a monster off their field, so it's a cute little multi-purpose card. But obviously, it's balanced by the fact that it has to be destroyed by battle to activate, and then obviously your opponent will know what's in your graveyard, so they will willingly destroy a monster by battle and let it activate. So it's balanced in that way.
Yeah. The neat part though is that it kind of fuels itself, right? Because the first time it's destroyed, it takes their monster and makes it a zombie, and then if that zombie monster is destroyed, then you get its graveyard effect if it's in the graveyard at that time.
Right.
It's not when your zombie monster is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, it's just when it's destroyed by battle, so it will still count even the one that you stole, so which is neat.
Right. Yeah, and that's good. That's very important because it wouldn't make a lot of sense to do it the other way. They would just intentionally be nerfing it if they did it that way. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's move on to a classic.
Yes, Illblood, I know is a favorite of a good friend of mine from when he played it back in the day. It is a Gemini monster. It is a tribute monster with only 2100 attack, which doesn't sound amazing at first, but the Gemini effect, once you normal summon it again, is you can special summon a zombie monster from your hand or either player's graveyard once per turn with no cost, so that part's amazing. But if Illblood leaves the field, destroy all zombies that were effect. So it's not insane, it's not, super overpowered, but if you get it online, it can just become this really cool recursion engine where you just, keep summoning zombies from the grave, and it's really neat.
Yeah. This is a card that a lot of people actually like who have played Yu-Gi-Oh for a while and played any kind of zombie deck in the past. It's not impossible for us to get Gemini monsters because we already have an Ancient Gear one. It's called Ancient Gear Knight, I think. And so it's already been introduced to the game, and the point of this one is to special summon it and then Gemini summon it immediately. So you're not like going through that whole thing of like, oh, you're gonna summon it and then wait a turn. No, it's a zombie, so you're supposed to like turbo it out either by setting it to the graveyard and bringing it back, or using some effect to cheat it out from your hand. And then from there you just kind of spam the board by summoning from your graveyard, which is the point of zombies, right?
Yep.
And you may be saying, but what if you don't draw Illblood? How do you summon it? I got you covered. Pyramid Turtle. This summons a zombie monster from your deck as long as it's got 2,000 or less defense. Now, you'll find this goes with a lot of monsters in this deck. And for that reason, I think Pyramid Turtle would be very cool. It goes with a lot of zombie monsters we already have in Speed Duels. It goes with a lot of the zombie monsters that are in worst case, if you watch that. And it obviously will go with a lot of the zombie monsters in here. So Pyramid Turtle makes zombie decks have that extreme level of flexibility where because of how powerful of a monster it can summon, you don't even have to wait for your opponent to kill it. You can actually make the crash play and do it on your turn, trigger it on your turn, and it's actually not terrible because the monster you get off of it might be strong enough to then actually become aggressive and turn the tables.
Right, and that's one of the cool things about Pyramid Turtle is that unlike a lot of the battle searchers, it's not restricted by how many attack points your monster can have in order to be special summoned. It goes by the defense, and we know a lot of zombies have low defense points. So as you said, you can summon powerful things off of Pyramid Turtle. It's not a 1500 or less attack searcher. So yeah, a lot of cool plays can be made with this thing.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. I think we actually talk about Familiar and Retainer together since they are.
I agree. Yeah.
Effects. So they both have the effect that if they're special summons, you can pay 500 life points. When you do, Familiar allows you to add a vampire monster from your deck to your hand, except for Familiar. Retainer allows you to add a vampire spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And I believe both of them have the identical effect that if it's in your grave, you can send a vampire card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard to special summon the card, but banish it when it leaves the field. And they both have the ability to do that. So very, very useful cards. Again, we have multiple ways to special summoning vampires, and we'll get to some of those later in this deck as well. In addition to things we already have, like Book of Life or say Shadow Reborn, that way. Yeah. So you have easy ways of fulfilling it, and of course Pyramid Turtle as well will special summon things. So we have that, which is neat. And yeah, vampires. A lot of the not very old vampires. Some of the, I mean, more. I want to say recent, but they're not very recent. But more recent than say Illblood. You know, have a theme like paying life points and then recovering life points. So this kind of feeds into that. And yes, they help you search your deck. They can special summon themselves, as we said. Tribute fodder always appreciated for vampires. So they do a lot. They do a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, for your vampire deck to pop off, these two are essentially your searchers / starters for the deck to really go into its big plays. So, like, I remember in Duel Links is where I've seen this deck in action. And, like, Vampire Familiar and Vampire Retainer were usually the turn one play for the deck. So that is kind of what gets you going. And what do you want to end on? Well, there's a lot of monsters you can end up on. Starting with Vampire Frolane. I hope I'm saying that correctly. What? What?
I'm sorry.
What is it?
I thought we fixed this. Fraulein.
Fraulein? Oh. Okay. We might have already talked about this, but it's okay. It's late at night, okay? All right. So this, first of all, special summons from your hand when a monster declares an attack. Not your monster. Not your opponent's monster. When a monster declares an attack, you know, that thing that actually does happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Even in speed duels. It can just special summon in defense. Then it has a once per turn effect. I mean, that effect is once per turn. It has a once per battle effect. Yeah, once per battle. You never read that. If your zombie monster battles an opponent's monster, you pay life points up to 3,000. You know, Prideful Roar? It's Prideful Roar and a monster effect. So your monster gains that much stats, whatever stat, both stats. And then at the end of the battle phase, it's Goyo Guardian, which is basically if it destroys a monster, you steal it. So you special this just because they attack or you attack, and then you use its effect to run over a monster by paying life points, and then that monster is now yours. So you did a lot of special summoning, but you might have lost a lot of life points. So that's the drawback, right? That's the balance.
Especially in the 4,000 life point format.
Yes, because it starts off at 600.
Yeah.
So even to run over like Illblood, you would have to give up 2,100. I'm not 2,100. Sorry, math is hard. 1,600 life points because Illblood is at 2,100. Okay, I can do it. I promise. All right. What else do we have?
All right. Our next card is Vampire Ghost. It's 1,500, 0 defense, so it can be special summon, which is neat. But its effect is when it's normal. You can send another vampire card from your hand or face-up field to the grave to add a level 4 or higher. I'm used to saying 4 or lower on most effects, but add a level 4 or higher vampire monster from your deck to your hand. And if you do, send a level 2 or lower vampire monster from the graveyard. Like, say, I don't know, Vampire Familiar or Retainer, for example. And during the main phase, because we're not done, we got more. As a quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard and pay 500 life points. to then normal summon a vampire monster. So it also has the ability to give you a second normal summon during your turn, should you desire it.
Yes, and because so many vampires are like monsters that require tributes to normal summon, additional normal summons can actually really help you get your big monsters on the field. So, actually, a very useful second effect. No, third effect. Third effect as well. Cards with 3 effects. Impossible.
All of them.
Right.
So speaking of big vampires to summon, what might we want to summon?
You might want to summon a card that people have been talking about when vampire conversation comes up in the Discord. Vampire Grace. Now, if you count these stars, only level 6, so only 1 tribute. Now, is the effect good for 1 tribute? Let's find out. When level 5 hard zombie monster is special summoned to your field by the effect of a zombie monster while this card is in your graveyard, you pay 2,000 life points, special summon this card from your graveyard. So if you summon another level 5 or higher zombie monster using a zombie monster effect, Grace can just special summon herself from the graveyard. And that's a once per turn, hard once per turn effect, whatever. And then there's a soft once per turn effect where you can declare a card type, and then your opponent sends that type from their deck to the graveyard. So doesn't have to wait to do damage like Vampire Lord. It can just make your opponent mill whatever type of card they want once per turn as an once per turn. Is it called ignition effect?
Yeah.
Yes. As a once per turn ignition effect. Terra Master knows things, confirmed.
And we'll get to a little bit later, if you don't already know, why that's better than it sounds.
Yes. Yeah, we will. We will. All right, what do we have here?
Vampire Red Baron. First off, look at that.
Yes,
How
beautiful.
Do you not want this thing?
Is this just zombie Doom Caliber Knight?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, kind of. It looks so good though.
It does.
Actually looks so. Once per turn, it's a 1 tribute, 2,400 attack, and once per turn you can pay 1,000 life points and target a monster your opponent controls and 1 other vampire monster control to switch control of those targets. That's right, it's creature swap on a monster, except you get to choose. Your opponent doesn't. Aha. At the end of the battle phase, Goya Guardian.
Yeah,
Easy.
You'll notice that with a few of these.
But also, what's neat to note is that it is 1,000 defense, and again, I'm just going back to Pyramid Turtle synergy. Because we talked about how Pyramid Turtle can summon some big things from your deck. Pyramid Turtle can summon Vampire Red Baron from your deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't go over it, but Pyramid Turtle can summon every monster we've been through so far.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Pyramid Turtle is really good. And I like about Red Baron is that it works so well with Familiar and Retainer. I know we keep going back to that too, but you summon Red Baron, you bring back your Familiar or Retainer using its graveyard effect, and then you creature swap. You give your opponent a garbage 500 or 600 monster, and you take their monster that you want. So that's pretty good, I'd say.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We go back and forth. We go high level, low level. Here's the low level. We got Vampire Sorcerer, 15-15. So the low levels seem to all be like relatively low on attack points, but they have good effects. If this card in possession is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card, so that includes battle and card effect. You can clarify that, but not skill, apparently.
Those aren't
Right.
cards, not cards.
Yes. You can add 1 dark vampire monster or 1 vampire spell trap from your deck to your hand. So it's a slower search version of Retainer and Familiar, but it's flexible, which makes it, worth consideration. Because it's not, you need Retainer specifically or Familiar specifically for whatever you're looking for. Its Sorcerer can get you both as long as your opponent is the one that sends it to your graveyard. And then, if that's not enough, you banish it from your graveyard. A dark vampire monster you can in your hand can be normal summoned essentially without tributing from your hand. So that's also really good considering some vampires are level 7. Coming up next card. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes it time to look at Vampire Vamp, our next card, which is normally a 2 monster. However, as we said, Vampire Sorcerer can allow you to summon it without tributing, or, special summon it off Pyramid Turtle. I'm just pointing it out, because it has 2,000 defense. Yes. So once per turn, when this card or a vampire monster is normal summoned field, so if it's already face up, if you normal summon a vampire monster, you as well. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls with attack higher than Vampire Vamps, and then just equip it to Vampire Vamp. And it gains attack equal to the combined original attack of the monster is equipped to it by this effect. So Vampire Vamp can get absolutely enormous.
Yes, and not only that, it's instant removal without destruction for anything that's over 2,000 attack, which is so good. It's should be easier to summon with all the synergy cards you have here than Relinquished. So it's basically Power Creep Relinquished. It's Relinquished that starts off with attack points. It's insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that all wasn't enough, it also has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard while equipped with a card by its own effect, you can just special summon Vampire Vamp right back.
Yep.
So it's actually pretty hard to get rid of.
Yeah, comes back by her own effect. Doesn't even need a combo card to loop with. It just self loops. It's great.
Yep.
Next card is a funny one because we
Sort of a reprint.
Bob, can we have Zombie Master? We have Zombie Master at home. Zombie Master at home, very bad skill. So yeah, Zombie Master was a never played skill, barely even tested skill, and that's because copers like me exist in our universe. But as a card, it would actually be really good because you read its effect once per turn, send a zombie monster hand to graveyard, then level 4, level 10 monster in either graveyard for those zombie mirrors you'll be playing, and you special summon it. And you know, they can book it to let you not resolve the effect, but that's all that last part means. Don't worry about it. Yep. Overall, it's a very good card that really helps you once again just kind of pop off with your zombie deck, right? First monster has the ability to summon a second monster, and then you can just go from there. Whether if that's Pyramid Turtle, you use your Pyramid Turtle to turn into a boss monster, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, Zombie Master. Good card, bad skill.
Yeah. All right, this is a fun one. OCG.
Yes. So we have Ghost Fusion, a card that I don't think either of us beforehand. Researching zombie cards, we found this, and it's fun.
Yes.
So you can fusion summon a fusion monster for your extra deck. Only zombie monsters you control as fusion material. It's like, what? It's worse than Poly. I can't use for my. However, if your life points are lower than your opponent's, which we've already discussed many ways you can lower your points with this deck, you can also banish one zombie monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard as material. So you actually only need to control one zombie, and the other one can be banished from basically anywhere if your life points are lower than your opponent's.
Yes.
So it actually makes it a pretty interesting and flexible zombie-specific fusion.
Wouldn't it be great if the first thing allowed to fusion summon using graveyard materials in speed duels was zombies who literally are supposed to be graveyard-themed creatures? So, yeah, that would be great.
Now, maybe it's worth asking the question, Sarah Master. What would we want to be summoning with our Ghost Fusion?
Well, the zombie monsters, fusion monsters we have in Speed Duel right now are all terrible. So we need to give you a new one, a good one. And we have given you a Dragon Necro Nether Soul Dragon. I think you would say that better than me.
Twice.
Yes. Also, the third time it says dragon right there. Yeah.
Dragon. Very good.
Dragon, yep, Dragon Cubed. Yeah, as you see, it's generic. Any two zombie monsters, like, whoa, that's crazy. In your entire zombie deck, any two of those can make this beast. Amazing. Must first be fusion summoned, so take that, Waking the Dragon. Monsters cannot be destroyed in battle with this card. You'll be like, what? It can't run over monsters. What's the point? Hold on, read. At the end of the day, if it battled a monster that has an original level, so monsters we don't have and that aren't legal in speed duels would be immune, but don't worry about those. That monster attack becomes 0. Also, if that monster is still face up on the field, you special summon a dark token. That token becomes equal to the original attack of the monster that you attacked. Did I explain that?
More or less. So yeah, so you're already 3,000, which is pretty big. Run into something. It's not destroyed by battle. But then its attack drops to 0. You summon a token with attack equal to that monster's original attack, which then can run over that thing, because now it has 0 attack.
Yes. So essentially you're doing damage twice. Your first attack does damage. It doesn't kill the monster. It sets to 0, but now you get a token that does damage by actually killing that monster, who is now at 0.
Yep. And now you potentially have 2 big monsters on your side of the field.
Yes.
which is very nice for zombies who again want to swarm the field with scary monsters.
Yep. And I want to say that this card does not target, so that's really cool. If you're thinking about most effects we've had so far targeting effects, this one does not. So it's very nice. This is a very creative effect too, in my opinion. Yeah, we don't usually see like creative, unique effects like this, so I really like this card for that reason. All right, let's go.
On to the field spell. I promised you when we talked about Vampire Grace, you would find out why it's so good if you didn't already know. And now you know, because it's Vampire Kingdom. The field spell that zombie monsters gain 500 during damage calculation only. That is not a once per turn. That is not a one monster. That is every time your zombie monster is involved in battle, whether it be with another monster, whether it be with opponent's life points, it doesn't matter. Always gains 500 attack. And once per turn, when a card is sent from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, target one card on the field, send a dark vampire monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. If you do, destroy that target. So Vampire Grace allows you to just decide to send a card from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, and then combos with Vampire Kingdom to then pop a card on the field. And of course, when she battles, she'll become 2,500 instead of 2,000.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Vampire Kingdom really good. And if we were to get it, would also be the reason why action in some sort of errata.
Yes, absolutely. You would have to believe that they're planning on giving us Vampire Kingdom. They are, I really hope, thinking ahead and not letting viral infection run rampant in there, because that would be somewhat funny, but also not really.
Yeah, no, that's not what we need here.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to another vampire combo spell. We got Vampire's Desire. You target a face-up monster you control. You send a vampire monster from deck to graveyard. Notice all these foolish burial effects, which are actually really good for any zombie deck.
And we have Foolish 2 in the format now.
That's true, yes. Different level from the targeted monster. And then the targeted monster becomes level. So I think the biggest use for this first effect is, for our format right now, would just be Foolish Burial. Right.
Yeah.
And then the second effect, which is target a vampire monster in your graveyard, send a monster you control to the graveyard, and then special summon the targeted monster. So it's just like a creature swap with your own graveyard. I don't know. Sure. And your monsters can sometimes have graveyard effects, so you're not even really losing anything if you kind of combo it off the right way. So, good card.
Yep. Agreed. Alright, so I said, sometimes you want to pay life points stuff 100 times. Well, guess what? Vampire's Domain says, hey, you might want to pay life points to do stuff. It is a continuous spell that once per turn you can pay 500 life points. And during your main phase, during the turn that you pay those 500 life points, you can normal summon a vampire monster in addition to your normal summon or set. Even if this card leaves the field. So you activate the effect, and they destroy it, too bad. I still get the effect. Deal with it. Each time your vampire monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, gain the same amount as life points. So I said, you're paying life points and you want to get them back? Well, guess what? Domain actually gives you a way of recovering all those life points that you're spending. So It gives you an additional normal summon, plus allows you a way to gain back those life points. So yeah, super useful.
Domain is your LP recovery card. Do not play Ladybug, play Domain.
I was going to say, it doesn't have to be Ladybug. We can do better.
Yes, we can play things that are more fun, more exciting, please. Alright, but that's the end of the spell lineup. You ready for traps?
Do it.
Let's start generic. We got Return of the Zombies. Banish one zombie monster on the field. Crazy. You only get to trigger its graveyard effects. Better be good. Then fetch them a zombie type monster from the graveyard of the player who controlled it to their field in defense mode. Okay, not bad. But there's more. If this card is in your graveyard, you can shuffle one of your banished zombie monster into a deck. Remember that zombie you banished? Well, now it goes back into the deck. And this card gets set. It resets itself from the graveyard. But then it gets banished when it leaves the field. So with this and Haunted Shrine, you would have the potential for as much revival as you could ever want. And that's what zombie decks should do.
Yep, agreed. Very thematic, very good. You could also use it against your opponent, potentially, since you can match a zombie from either side of the field. It's just that, you'll special summon it from their graveyard instead of your own onto their field. But, if they have a big zombie you want to get rid of, you could banish it and then, special summon maybe one of their bad ones from their graveyard. So, potentially good in the mirror, too.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I didn't think of that. Mirror match. Nice. All right, let's go.
Alright, next card is Vampire Awaken. You special summon a vampire monster from your deck, but destroy it during the end phase of this turn. Very simple effect, but very good.
Yes.
First off, you might just win, right? Like you can just summon a big vampire from your deck, during battle phase and swing for game.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yes.
But also, as we've covered, a lot of these, vampires have effects while in the graveyard. So even though it's destroyed during the end phase, that might not actually be as big of a problem as it might be for some other cards.
No. It gives your deck speed, which is, I think, very good for vampire decks. Which, otherwise you've got some floaters in here, you've got some cards that only trigger when your opponent sends them to grave. That can be maybe a little slow, so Awakening gives you a little speed.
Yep. I like it.
Yep. Now we got Vampire Domination. When a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated while you control a vampire monster, negate. And then, if it was a monster, you gain life points equal to its original attack. Your second life point gain card. Do not play Ladybug.
Seriously, there's no need.
Yes. But yeah, Omni Negate, that is super cool. In fact, this can destroy Ladybug from their hand, if I'm reading it correctly. So,
yeah.
There you go. Counter the Ladybug. Opponent normal summons Rocket. Say no, Rocket for you. 1900 life points for me. Take that. Easy.
Yep. Obviously, this is very good.
Yes.
But we already have one of these. We have a Merger Red Call, and it sees no play. So surely this will also see no play and be fine.
Well, I think this is the type of protection that a normally could be fragile deck like vampires could use. And I say fragile deck because you're paying life points constantly, right? So you're low on LP.
It gives a lot of protection. I don't think you'd run like 3 of them, but like 1 or 2 would be very reasonable.
Yeah, no, it's good protection for a deck that could be low on life points almost all the time. So one big push could kill you. So having a Omni Negate counter trap is good in your back row.
Yep.
All right, last card
is Vampire Takeover. Because we talked about Vampire Kingdom being... This is going to make sure that you get to it. We don't need no stinking metaverse. If you have no card in your field zone, all face-up monsters you control are zombie monsters. So you do need to control at least one zombie monster. You can activate a Vampire Kingdom directly from your deck. Then, you can special summon 1 Dark Vampire monster from your graveyard in defense position. So it also gives you a body on the... in addition to activating that.
Yeah. Metaverse plus Haunted Shrine. What more could you want in life?
Yep.
And Metaverse was limited 3 until like yesterday or something. So that's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, this I think would be a really good deck. It would be able to stand up to the Evil deck that we had for you last week. And I think all the other decks that we're going to do in best case can also stand up to these 2 decks as well. So that's kind of what Justice referenced last week. Kind of what we're building up to is a format where you get... The best case would be to get a lot of new good cards, new good decks that can all compete with each other, rather than have to worry about the same old stuff we've been dealing with for a long time.
Yep, exactly.
So, all right.
Yeah, so that is all for today. So I hope you all enjoyed our best case scenario for, the longer. But there's just more to talk about when we're talking about best case, because these are to the format. They're generally a higher power level than what we currently have. So there's just more to talk and more to go over. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you want to see from Camula's deck. What is your best case? What cards are you hoping we get? Zombies or vampires or whatever else you think makes sense for her. So do tell us down below. But that will do it for us today. So until next time, my friends, as always, be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Good luck in all of your games. And we will see you soon.